So the mountain was torn to pieces, and as the second star moved away from the sun and threw off small parts of itself into space. These small parts have been going round the sun ever since. So since then, these small parts are going round the sun, they are moving around the sun, they are revolving around the sun, and these small parts or these small pieces are called planets. Some are great and some are small, of which our Earth is one, and our Earth is one of those planets. The sun and the other stars we see in the sky are all extremely hot, far too hot for life to exist on them. In this paragraph, the writer is telling us why life can't exist on the other stars and the sun. And he tells us that the stars are too small, too hot. They are extremely hot. Too hot for life to exist on them. So also no doubt were the pieces of the sun when they were first thrown off. And he says that the pieces of the sun, as they were thrown off, they were also very, very, very hot in the beginning, because the mountain of tidal waves was created on the surface of the sun, and as the sun is too hot, so the mountain of the pieces of tidal mountain were also very hot. Gradually they became cooler until now they have very little heat of their own left, their warmth coming almost entirely from the radiation which the sun pours down on them. Eventually they became cooler and cooler, and now they are in a state, they are in a condition that they get their warmth, a little warmth only from the radiation of the sun, which it pours down upon them. In course of time, one of these cooling phases gave birth to life, and he says, the writer tells us that in the course of time, one of these cooling phases, one of these cooling planets gave birth to life. We do not know how, when or why this happened. Our science cannot tell us exactly when did it happen, how did it happen, and why this happened. It started in simple organisms, but we just know that life started in simple organisms, simple living beings whose living power chiefly consisted in their being able to reproduce themselves before dying. And any organisms which were created in the beginning, they had the ability to reproduce, to multiply before they went to die. But before these humble beginnings came a stream of life which, growing ever more and more complex, has in the end produced beings whose lives are largely centered in their feelings and ambitions, their sense of beauty, and the religions in which lie their highest hopes and noblest desires. So he says, in the beginning the organisms were very simple, the living organisms were very basic, of basic level, but with the passage of time they developed and developed and developed, and before dying they reproduced, they multiplied, and finally we got a kind of creatures, a kind of living organisms, a kind of living beings who we call humans. Their lives are largely centered in their feelings and ambitions. Eventually we got organisms who have feelings and ambitions, who have sense of beauty, who have their own religions, their own beliefs, and they've got hopes and they have got their noblest desires. So this was a complex process of development of the human beings on the earth, but we do not know exactly what happened, how it happened, but we do have a general idea that life started with the simple organisms, and which developed and developed with the passage of time, and until we got the complex creatures, that is human beings. Let's move on to the second page of the chapter. Although we cannot speak with any certainty, it seems most likely that the human race came into existence in some such way as this. The writer acknowledges, he admits that we cannot speak anything with certainty, but it seems most likely that human beings came into existence in the same way as described by him in the previous paragraph. Standing on our little grain of sand, we try to discover the nature and purpose of the universe. He is calling Earth again as a little grain of sand. We are just like a single grain of sand on all of the seashores of the world. So he says that we try to discover the nature and purpose of the universe. Although we are so little, we are meaningless creatures. Our earth is just meaningless in comparison to the space, but we little creatures, we try to discover the nature and purpose of the universe which surrounds our home in space and time. So the universe surrounds us. Our home means our earth in space and in space and time. So if we talk about the earth, we know very little about its surroundings, and we know very little about the time and when it was created, when it came into existence, and how it came into existence. So our first feeling is something like fear, and he says that by feeling so, by thinking so, that we are so little in comparison to space, our earth is so little, so small in comparison to space, and we do not know what time we were created, what time our earth was created, and how far it is from the other heavenly bodies. So many things create a feeling of fear in our minds, a thought of fear in our minds. We find the universe frightening because of its immense distances, which we do not understand. He is giving us the reasons why we find our universe frightening. The first reason he gives us, the universe is frightening because of the immense distances, that there are immense distances we have got from the other planets, we have got from the other stars, we have got from the other heavenly bodies in space. Frightening because of the stretches of time so great that we cannot imagine them, and the stretches of time are also very great. We do not know when we were created, and what time it was. We do not have any idea about it, making the whole human history so very small in comparison, because the history is we can say it's so previous. We do not know when history was started, when the whole universe was created, and we do not know when we ourselves were created. Perhaps we were created long after the universe was created. So our history is very small in comparison to the history of the universe, because universe is so vast, we cannot understand how the universe was created and when it was created. So about ourselves, we are really very small in comparison to that. Our history is very small in comparison to that. Our history is very short in comparison to that. A millionth part of a grain of sand out of all the sea sand in the world. He again refers to ourselves, our earth, as a millionth part of a grain of sand out of the all the sea sand in the world. But above all else, we find the universe frightening because we cannot find any sign that life like our own exists anywhere in it except on the earth. After giving the other reasons why the universe is frightening for us, he comes to the last, more important reason, that is that we do not know that if life exists anywhere in the other planets except Earth, that it is only we ourselves who are having life on the earth, and we think that there are, and we believe that there are no other human beings, no other creatures living on the other planets. So this is also frightening for us, that we human beings are alone on earth. We are alone in the universe to have life. So it gives us a feeling of fear. Indeed, for the most part, empty space is so cold that all life in it would be frozen. He tells us that all around the earth, the space, the empty space is so cold that we cannot imagine to have life over there. If there was any life, it would be frozen at all. Most of the matter in space is so hot as to make life on it impossible. And in space, the matter in space is so hot. In empty space, it is so frozen, and in the matter in space is so hot as to make life on it impossible. So everything except life, everything around except the earth, either it's too cold, or it is too hot for life to exist. Life does not seem to have any part in the plan of the universe which produced our planetary system, and we feel that life wasn't a part of the plan of the universe. It's obviously, as Muslims, we know very well that life was created with purpose by Allah Almighty, whatever, by God. But the writer just talks scientifically that we do not we think that it seems that our life wasn't the part of the planet of the universe, or our planetary system which produced our planetary system. So it gives us a feeling of fear. Calculation shows that there can be only very few such systems in space, and he says that scientific calculations tells us that there can be only very few such systems like planets, systems like our Earth. Yet so far, like our own solar system, yet so far as we can see, life of the kind we know on Earth can exist only on planets like the Earth. And we know very well that even we have got other planets like Earth, but isn't available over there. It doesn't exist over there. It needs suitable physical conditions for its appearance, the most important of which is a temperature at which substance can exist in a liquid state. And he tells us that for life, we should have some suitable physical conditions, and the very foremost, the very important physical condition is a kind of temperature where substance can exist in a liquid state. And this is possible only on Earth, that a substance can exist on the liquid balanced state, while on the other planets, or perhaps it's not possible. The temperature is not as to make something exist in a liquid. The stars themselves are far too hot for this. He says that life is not possible on stars because stars are far too hot for this. We may think of them as a collection of fires scattered through space. He says that we can imagine stars as just like they are the fires. They are the collection of fires scattered through space, providing warmth in surroundings where the temperature is at most some 4 degrees above absolute zero. And he says that they are providing warmth in the star. The stars providing their warmth in the surroundings, and the temperature where the surroundings where the temperature is 4 degrees above absolute zero, that is about 4 degrees of frost on the Fahrenheit scale. In the immense stretches of space beyond the Milky Way, it is colder still. Milky Way is actually the location of our solar, is the location, an idea we can get about the location of our solar system in space. So he says that beyond this solar system, beyond this Milky Way, it is colder. The space is so cold, the universe is so cold. Away from the fires, there is this unimaginable cold of hundreds of degrees of frost. So from the fires, from the stars, away from the stars, so much away that a space which cannot get warmth from the sun and the other stars, there is very cold. It's too cold that we have got hundreds of degrees of frost. Close up to them, there is a temperature of thousands of degrees, while close to stars, the temperature is of thousands of degrees, at which all solids melt, all liquids spoil. Where solids melt and liquids spoil. So stars, near to the stars, life is impossible because it's too hot. And away from the stars, away from the Milky Way, it's too cold for life to exist. Finally, he says life can exist only in a narrow belt surrounding each of these fires at a certain distance where the temperature is neither too hot nor too cold. Finally, he concludes that where is life possible? Only in a narrow, a very narrow belt there is where life can exist, where the temperature is neither too hot nor too cold, which is not very near to the sun, which is not very near to the stars or the balls of fire, and which is neither too close and neither too far from the stars. Outside these belts, life would be frozen. Inside, it would be burnt up. A rough this away from this belt, life would be frozen, and inside the belt, it would be burnt up because of being hot. A rough calculation shows that all such temperature belts within which life is possible, all added together make up less than 1,000 million parts of our whole space. And he says that this belt, if we try to imagine or guess or have an idea about the size of this belt, we can see that it is only 1,000 millionth part of the whole space. And even inside them, life must be very rare. And even in this belt we are talking about, life is very rare, for it is extremely unusual for suns to throw off planets as our sun has done, because it is very rare and unusual that stars would ever come near to another and they would raise tidal waves and they would be thrown off as pieces in planet. So it is very rare for life to exist. Probably only one star in 100,000 has a planet going around it at the right distance for life to be possible on it. So this is how he is going to tell us in this chapter. He has told us that a guess, a scientific idea, a historical we might say a clue that how our life was created, and he tells us that life was created, how earth was created, how life came into existence, and he has given us a very clear explanation of why life cannot exist on any other planets, on any other heavenly bodies except earth, and how small it is in comparison to the whole universe.